Oh, fancy meeting you here. We're back with another conversation with today with my co-star and my partner in crime, David Hubert, but also with man, my windows are really bright. I need to do something about that. I'll fix that in a second. We're with Marc-Olivier Plouffe, who is one of the co-founders of Keos Masons. I'm not even sure if I even pronounced that properly, but we'll let him correct me when he gets online here. And Keos Masons, if you don't know, they are a service studio, an outsourcing service studio who handles character design and modeling design work for lots of different industries, including movies, film, and the collectibles industry. So that is, he worked in a lot of video game companies before that, and before sort of striking out on his own with some other fine individuals. It's sort of a trend we've seen lately here. The last two streams, conversations like this have been with people that have had some similar backstories. They had a life in an industry. They decided they wanted something bigger or different, or just they wanted to try it on their own, and they decided to just throw all their chips on the middle of the table and make it happen. So be interesting to pick this wonderful man's brain a little bit. Before we do that, let's bring in David, and as he can entertain everybody for a second, I'll fix my stupid camera. One sec. Hello, David.
Hey, Brent. I gotta say, my eyes have to adapt to the brightness of your image right there.
I know. I'm gonna mute myself. It's like staring into the sun. I know. One sec.
It's pretty intense. Yeah, welcome everyone. A couple weeks ago, we had a request from chat that was something along the lines of, "Hey, when are you guys going to have people other than animators?" Well, here we are.
Yeah, here you go.
We had Manny 2 weeks ago, and we have Marc-Olivier today to kind of expand a little bit our range of guests, although not compromising on quality of the
never on quality. No, we brought the big guns today with Marco. By the way, I think his friends call him Marco, so we're going to go ahead and just call him Marco. If he hates that, he can tell me, and then I'll shut up and call him whatever he wants. King, champion, whatever. I'm sure he's got lots of names he wants me to use. Let's bring him in, and we can start picking his brain. Come on in there, Marco. Hello,
Sir Marc-Olivier Plouffe.
I knew he had a title. I'm glad you brought. Thank you for setting the record straight. Thank you for that.
No worries. I mean, these days you can just buy like a square foot in Scotland and call yourself a sir. Like it's something you can officially do.
Man.
I mean,
really?
Technically, I'm like that close to being one.
Wow.
You're like one click away on the internet, apparently.
Yeah. I'm one click away to being an insufferable douchebag. So Be careful.
Well, that's it. Like, I mean, some of us, if the shoe fits, we might as well have the title, right? So, I mean, maybe I'll just go ahead and just
I already have the
customize it.
attitude. I just need the title.
Exactly.
That's amazing. This conversation is already bringing so much value to our audience. Now you know how to be.
Yeah,
how
it's
to be
amazing.
quickly called sir.
Yeah, exactly.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Marco, there's many things that we want to discuss, but just for those that don't know you, and we try to keep this part pretty brief. We don't want to go over a 10-15 minutes history of your entire life, but let's sum your career. Let's stop before the creation of Keos Masons. So your background until that point.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'll start when I was 2 years old. I'll go really fast. But I mean, like, I've been drawing since I was a kid, but I've never actually was the kind of person with like academic studies and that sort of stuff. Even when my parents were like trying to tell me like, oh, you should like go to a school to learn how to draw, I was just like more interested to play like video games. But I was really interested in drawing. Like when I was a kid, I don't know where they are, but I have like stacks of papers of me drawing Mega Man bosses, like my own Mega Man bosses, right? I started by drawing like Mega Man from the game's booklets. And then starting, like, I drew like the bosses and everything, and then I started to create my own bosses, like Buffalo Man, Airport Man, whatever stupid
They
thing.
had the best bosses. I mean, let's face it.
Yeah, I mean, it was great. I love that. So, like, I mean, it was clear from the beginning, like when I was a kid, that I loved like characters, just characters for being characters, right? Was playing with my Ninja Turtle action figures all the time, and all those action figures, and even my Legos and whatnot. So, at some point, like when I was like 14, they asked me what kind of job you want, and my answer was like, well, I want to do something artistic in video game, but it was not really like easy to achieve, especially like where I came from. I mean, like it's a city close to Ottawa, but not really like a lot of like schools for 3D there. So I ended up having a job at the government, and around like the age of like 21, 22, I realized that I really needed to change my life and do something artistic, because it was really missing. Like I tried doing music and that sort of stuff. I loved it, but it was not really like visceral inside of me. So when I realized I needed to go back to my childhood dream, I had like friends that were able to recommend me like some schools that were like pretty close, like Montreal, which it's not that far. And when you're like 21 or 22 years old, it starts to get easier to tell yourself, hey, I can maybe like restart and move and go there and try at it. So that's what I did. And I studied for a year in 3D in that school. I was basically just like gonna make me like a 3D modeler, not necessarily like a character one or that sort of stuff. But since I've always had this desire to be a character artist, that's what I pursued. It took like a lot of time. I met some great people that taught me 3D there, but like I really needed to put like a lot of time at home to learn like really all about like the characters and the anatomy and this and that. So it's basically like the first time I've ever went to school for art was actually when I went to 3D school. So I had to kind of like learn art by itself at the same time as I learned 3D. So and I've actually became so much better at 3D than like drawing, which is kind of funny because I started with drawing, but I really learned art with 3D. And so I performed well enough. And after a while, I got my first job. From my first job, got my second one, my third one. And at this point, this is where like I was already with Cedric, and we decided to create our own company. So basically, that's the fast version of like what it is. But of course, along the line, I met like so many people that inspired me and helped me through like the difficulties of this industry. And so yes, I was like mentored by some pretty awesome people. So of course, I would not have been able to do.
That's a part that I'm particularly interested in, because in Montreal we have decent school, but it's hard to say that we still have world-class. You know, you have the Gobelin in France, you have CalArts, you have Sheridan, you have a lot of famous school, but in Montreal, for the most part, or at least many years ago, they were mostly giving you the basic and showing you how to use the software. But then to become really good, like world-class good, it was really on the job. I mean, for me, for animation, it was a 12-year journey working in multiple places for multiple studio. It seemed that you kind of fast-tracked this this part. So how did you, is it really at school, or when you got out of school, was it at home? How would you auto-analyze yourself going from learning the software to becoming, really good at what you're doing in a fairly short amount of time?
Yeah, I can tell that. One thing I'll say though is I agree that you about the school thing, and I think it comes from like a cultural place, because when I compare to France, because I teach in France, and I find that like people there just in general have like a much like better understanding of art, and it's easier to come out of school and be actually like pretty good, just on a base level.
So they're going into school with more. Is that what you're saying? Like
it's because like they are taught art like much more much more importantly, and like much sooner at the same time. Whereas like here, art is like for assholes almost. So like
guilty is charged.
Yeah, there you go. Like, I mean, I was always like the only kid in school that was drawing when I was a kid, and like I was not like that much of a good drawer. I mean, I was okay, but like not compared to like when you look at like there's some places in the world, man, they learn how to draw like when they're super young, and it's crazy what they can do, and it's incredible. But like here, it feels like we have somewhat of an handicap, and I think that like it would start with like actually making art more important for the country itself, and it would help with the schools afterwards, because the schools are good. I mean, and some people that come out of the schools and it's really great, but whatever. Anyways, for the personal question, it's when I was at school, I was actually like being told like, hey, you have to be careful. Character art is pretty hard to do, and it kind of like almost discouraged me. But there was one teacher that was actually more like encouraging. He was like, okay, yes, it's hard, but I mean, you got here, so you had to make a portfolio, and you were chosen, and you worked hard, because that guy so happened to have seen me before my portfolio, before going to the school, and after the portfolio. So he was like, you know what, you progressed pretty fast. I mean, I'm sure you can do it. Just go for it. And that was just enough like encouragement to tell me like, oh, you know what, it's going to be hard, but like I'm going to do it. But like I had to kind of like make a little sacrifice with my life for like the year that I was at school, and the sacrifice was like no social interaction for like the complete year. I was isolated like COVID style in my apartment in like 2009 to 2010, just like learning 3D, but learning anatomy and that sort of stuff. And I've bought like so many like tutorials of like back then big names that were doing like great things in 3D, and I was just like putting them on loop. Even if I was not following the tutorial, I remember just like having them constantly play on loop. At this point, I was so like inspired to become this, that I was like a total sponge with like everything. And so the school was there to like teach me like the technical things, and to frame me into like a way of working, which is like, I think that would be essential for like most people, especially people that have like ADD like me, because for me it's so hard to like structure myself, that I like, when I learned it, it became like something I was dependent on. And but what made me like learn and like become who I am, I think it's because I was just always drawing, always working, for at least for like the year that I was at school. And afterwards, of course, I've been always kind of like a maniac with like 3D. So I've always been doing 3D, and it kind of like helped me. And I think that the reason why I was able to maintain this kind of like erratic work, like practice, whatever, was basically because I was in love with the craft. And I think that, I mean, the importance in like what I'm saying is basically that like sometimes when you really feel it, like you found your passion, like there's only benefits to really like following it. Like these are the broad strokes. Like, I mean, like you kind of have to make sure to be able to eat and have a shelter. Of course, that's kind of like a prerequisite, right? But like with any like free time that you have, it's not a waste to actually just put it in your passion if you really like deep inside of you feel it like you're doing the right thing.
Yeah,
I mean, I was like,
It's definitely one of the recurring theme with everyone that we spoke to that either started a successful business or were at the highest level of quality, that making sacrifice is something that comes back often. And when we say make sacrifice, it doesn't mean putting on all the stuff that doesn't really bother you to put on hold. You need to stop to do the thing that you really like to be doing. Like, as you said, for instance, no social life. I'm pretty sure that you enjoyed going and having a drink with friends. And that's something that you're like, you know what, for this year, I have no time for that. It's 100% this thing.
I remember there was one time there was a party at my place because my roommate was inviting people over, and I was actually in my room working on like a beard in 3D.
Nerd.
That I was not even like doing it the right way. I was just like fucking hell bent on getting there and getting the results. So like I actually did not even come out of my room for that that entire party.
And ever since that day, that's why you think that artists are assholes, because your roommate told you were one because you didn't show up to that party.
Exactly. It's like I was traumatized that day and it kept on. So I mean, that's what it is.
That's good. That's good.
But I mean, at the end of the day, it's like, yes, there's sacrifices to do, and like I loved like a few things. I love to play video games and I love to do this and that, and like, but it's like the sacrifice felt right also, because I think if the sacrifice doesn't feel right, you're probably not on the right track. There's like this, I really truly believe a lot about like gut instincts and that sort of stuff, except if it tells you to kill your neighbor, don't follow your guts. But like if your guts is telling you to follow your dream, I don't think that your guts is wrong. And I think that there is you have to be like kind of like honest with yourself, but really listen to it, even if like your brain tells you like, well, you're gonna have a less interesting life, you might make less money this way. I really feel that like when your guts tells you to pursue something artistic, I think that like you're gonna reach a lot of like, you're gonna gain a lot of like emotional benefit to that, and that's worth a lot, seriously.
Yeah, I think it's like, it comes down to like the 10,000 hour rule, right? It's like 10,000 hours is a significant like that's something you needed to dedicate a lot of time towards. Otherwise, it would take you forever to get there. And so that in itself just automatically requires there's sacrifice of choosing that over something else, because you can't do it all. There's only so much time in the day, right? So yeah, there's no, I mean, it's not just art. It's like anything. You make sacrifices being in a family, having kids. You make sacrifices moving away from home and not being able to see your folks because you want to accelerate your career. Like there's sacrifices everywhere in life, and it's not exclusive to this one industry. It's like if you want to be good at something, you need to sacrifice. End of story.
Yeah, exactly. Plus, I mean, I'm gonna add some perspective to it. So other things that in my life that I tried to do and that actually did not give me the same thing as a 3D gave me. For the longest time, I tried to become a musician. I mean, I've played guitar for like 10 years before starting in 3D, and like I was in a few bands, and I actually learned like the whole like shebang, and I was really, really happy playing music. Like it was really giving me like a cool feeling. But like if I compare what 3D or art, like visual art, was giving me compared to music, there was really something different where like I don't think that I understood music as much as I understood visual arts. And by that time, after 10 years of playing music, I was kind of like becoming almost better at music than I was at art, but I felt that I was like plateauing in music, and I didn't understand the fundamentals, and really like I didn't have really like the ear and all of that, and plus it didn't give me like that same feeling of satisfaction, I think. And it really, what it meant is that like maybe music was more like a great hobby for me rather than like the thing that I want to sink my life in. And it's really like inside of myself that I found the answer that was like, this is something that was like the right thing for me. And that's why I did all the sacrifices, because I never did really much sacrifices for music. But for art, I was like, I think I can actually make sacrifices for this. So it was kind of like a good tell that like I was diving in the good thing. And the other example would be the first time that I tried to make a grilled cheese sandwich, and I failed miserably, and I thought it sucked, and I never tried again. Except when I'm drunk, like, and it always fails anyway. So
when you're drunk, like, it always tastes good anyways, though. So I guess it's
okay. Also, like I can drop like as much like garlic powder in my grilled cheese as I want. I'm still gonna eat it. It's still gonna be good. I'm gonna be a little bit dry and.
Is Is that part of the Marco grilled cheese recipe? Is garlic powder?
Dude, don't at me. I'm gonna come write a book like in a second if you continue.
That's all right. That's good. We'll save that for another conversation.
Yeah,
but that's a really good point. That's a question I had at some point. How do you differentiate what should be a career and what is a hobby? Ideally, your hobby is something that you really love to do. Your career should be something that you at least like to do, but you have the feeling that, oh my God, I could have the potential to become very good in this. And usually it should inform your choice. I mean, at least in my opinion. One of the things that we didn't even dive into Keos Mason yet, but that's definitely something that we're going to do. But what we left our last week interview with Jalil was basically Jalil Sedul, who's the animator that I work with at DreamWorks, but he's the co-founder of Steamroller. So when the same thing for starting a studio and making all the sacrifice. And one of the questions that's been asked from chat is, what are the sacrifices that you had to do to start a business? And, it became pretty emotional for him because when he started the studio, he had a 1-year-old. His girl was 1 year old. So there was this way of not seeing his kid as much as he hoped he would have. And I know that you're a new father as well. So how do you handle both? Because now at least, Keos Mason, it's not just a startup anymore. It's rolling and you have help and all that. But how do you manage in between being an entrepreneur and being passionate for your art? At the same time, there's a new human being that kind of rely on you to survive.
Yeah. I mean, you know what? I'll just start a thread of like always answering a random question before answering your question you just asked. I just want to say, exactly. I just wanted to, because you said something interesting. You said like, what's the biggest thing you have to sacrifice when you start a company? And like, I'll say, I think it's like when you come from like a studio and like you start like a freelancing company, like easily, like the thing you have to sacrifice is security. Because like now like your payment is like depends on yourself and like I mean this is like base level when you're a freelancer, right? But like when you're like trying to start like a company that's based on that, it's like also like the responsibilities of making sure that like people that are working for you, like they're taken care of and that sort of stuff. There's like so much, so like there's no more like laying back doing 3D and getting your paycheck at the end of the day. But the counterbalance of that is like as much work as you put in, you get like you get the outcome of like the success of it, like, and the profits of it, right? So you're not, there's no more safety net under you, but like you can like go so much higher like really quickly. It all depends on yourself. So that's kind of like the interesting balance. Now with a kid, I'd say that like there was like I really needed to like think about like how I was going to handle things before for lack of better words, impregnating my wife. So sorry, but like it was really like a question.
Hold on a second. Hold on. We'd have to explain birds and the bees to the entire chat.
Okay, all right.
I don't know if they all know about it. Okay,
let's go back to when I was 2 years old.
Brand cue the little cute music.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, exactly. You have like a graph that shows it. Like
we need some pictography here to be able to explain this without getting too graphic. How it works.
There you go.
Yes.
Well, it's good because I have a sausage and a donut in my office.
Oh my God! Here we go. This chat this is just going down a very dark path right now.
Exactly.
I love it.
But before I was like before we were talking about those plans, like I needed to like figure out like a way to be able to coexist with this. And before the family started, I was actually like working some pretty incredible working hours. Like to be honest, like I was easily doing like a 14 hours a day, 6 days a week. But that was not necessarily like a question of like I had to do it or else the company would fail. It was more a question of like I was really trying to build something. Same goes for like Cedric, right? It was like an effort that we were really putting into like making sure that like we always deliver like at the maximum quality we can. Like there's a certain brand that we have to upkeep, right? And like our efforts were really put into it. And when I actually knew that I was going to have a kid, I just had to make sure that I was able to manage this within like a more reasonable amount of working hours. something more akin to like 8 to 10 per day, 5 days a week. And we had to make a couple of arrangements, me and Cedric, for sure, in terms of like the amount of work we were going to put in, because Cedric already has like a kid that's much older. The responsibilities are different. So basically, I just had to make sure I was able to just like manage things correctly. But the thing that's actually interesting from that is that I've realized that there's like, and this is kind of like the centerfold of like every podcast that I go to and every speech that I have is talking about efficiency. Like it's I vomit that word constantly, efficiency, or like optimizing. And there's like, I mean, there's so many ways to optimize and to be efficient with your work. Either if it's like in the like creation of a character, or if it's like in the managing of your company. Like there is like sometimes when life challenges you, you figure out like new ways to just get through it and just be efficient at it, and realizing what's really important and what's stuff that I just waste too much time on it. Man, we could talk about that for like so long, about like figuring out what's important and focusing on it correctly. But in terms of like managing my company, was basically like the same. Once again, it was just, okay, how can I be like a good boss and make sure that like my company stays afloat if I actually restrict myself to 8 hours per day, like 8 to 10 hours per day, like depending if I work at night and that sort of stuff. But at the same time, like be available for my kid, because like my kid needs a dad, and like I need to be there. So it so happens that like right now it kind of like works well, because I've always worked from home. So my wife is taking care of the kid. When my shift ends, I take care of my family. And at night, when people are sleeping, well, I can put in some more time and that sort of stuff. And within that, I know approximately the amount of work that I can actually handle, right? So it's a lot about like also knowing yourself. Yeah, that's pretty much it. But let me just say that like there are times that I realized that I did not know myself, and I've put myself in a situation that I was like, how am I going to get out of this one without like fucking up everything? Sorry for the F word. There was like I'm like that close to be able to talk about it without like mentioning names, but there was a client that called me because they needed to create a demo for their game, and it was a impossible contract to accomplish, and I just said yes, because I made some like mathematic in my head that I was like, if I hire this amount of people to do this kind of like thing, we're going to be able to deliver everything. And it ended up being like a shit show. But you know what? I pulled through, and the people were like super happy, and it was great, because like that's what fucking Keos Mason does. We deliver. But at the end of that adventure, I was like, I'm not doing that ever again. Like ever again. Like I have reached, I know what my limit is now, because I leaped over it.
Oh boy.
But I like now I'm that much smarter. So I mean, it's kind of good. It's kind of good like to test. And you know what? Even if I would have like failed at doing that, I would have known like this limit, and I would have like actually like be better for it now, right? As long as you assume like everything and you're somewhat responsible, like sometimes taking chances like this, like you'll get to know yourself like much more. And thank God that like Cedric pushed me sometimes to actually like try to go and see what those limits are, because like I've discovered a lot about myself, as much as like it's how far I can go, and as much as it is like how far this is like too much, and I have to actually like just know that this is like a real physical like limit that like no.
Yeah. So actually, before that's interesting. Before we go into the dynamic of two co-founder, maybe let's rewind a little bit and take back where you stopped initially about the creation of Keos Mason itself. So maybe how you get to know Cedric, how that professional relationship evolved to the point of, hey, let's start this thing, and why.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm going to speak for him. So like, but I guess I'm going to give you a like 80% accurate answer. Because I mean, I don't like to talk for somebody else, but like I kind of like have to give you an answer. But well, the way that the relationship started is that we met at my first job. My first job was at THQ. It's actually fun how I got my job at THQ because I was supposed to get hired. I was supposed to be hired by Ubisoft, but after the school. Yeah, well, actually, you know what? No, I avoided that. I avoided the merger.
I didn't know that.
Whatever the acquisition. But my school was financed by Ubisoft, and I was supposed to be working for Ubisoft after. But it just so happened that they got a lockdown of employment at the moment that I was finishing school, so I was not able to get the job. I was supposed to have it, didn't get it. So afterwards, I just for 6 months, I just did 3D constantly, and I was seen on ZBrush Central at that time because I was just always
prolific.
Always, I was prolific, yeah. And at some point, the ZBrush they wanted to do a presentation in Montreal for the Montreal Gaming Summit, the conference thing.
Yeah, MIG.
So yeah, the MIG, exactly. I think now it's called Mega MIG. Anyways,
I think so.
So since I was there and I already tested the software, the beta, they basically told me, hey, do you want to go there and do some testing or whatever? Just show the people how it works. And
you were doing live demos at MIGs?
Yeah, I did.
Cool, nice.
Yeah, even before I had my first job. But
oh wow,
my point is that
funny.
Yeah, well, I was on the beta and I knew a lot about the new tools and I shown that I was a prolific artist, so they were ready to trust me into just showing some stuff, and I was seen by a guy there, David Gio, that became my first boss because he saw me there, he gave me a job afterwards. So 2 weeks later, I had my first job at THQ, and at THQ, at some point, Cedric started to work there, and Cedric is somebody that really sees the potential in people. He really has a good eye to actually just see something and see where it goes and see the potential of it. So he's the opposite of the art director that tells you that he wants one thing and you give it to him and he's that's the opposite that I wanted. He's really able to really know what he wants and know how to get there and see the raw material and see how it actually can get transformed. So basically when I started to work there, he gave a lot of attention to me because I was really, really working hard and overtime and trying to get better and that sort of stuff. And as far as I understand, what he told me is that he appreciated to see this passion. And I was maybe missing a bit of guidance. Oh, you know what? That wouldn't be fair to say because I was surrounded by really talented people that actually taught me a lot. It's just that he really put himself out there to help me even more, even to go into my bubble while I was working and trying to help me. And we kind of developed this mentorship situation from there. And plus he had 5 years experience or 6 years of experience more than me in the industry, maybe even more actually.
Yeah, so Marco, I just want to mention for those that don't know Cedric, so go check it out. You mentioned that you were quite prolific at that time. Cedric So is probably one of the most prolific in the amount of character, personal work that he was posting online a decade ago. It was just insane.
Where was he putting it? ArtStation? Just so people know where to look.
DeviantArt a lot,
Art, right.
I think. At that time, yeah. It was all over the place. So anyway, but yeah, it was not a bad mentor to get at that point. That's for sure.
No, not at all. Plus, I mean, he was we're kind of different, me and Cedric, in terms of our styles and stuff. But I really got inspired by a lot of the main aspects of his perspective in art and that sort of stuff. But also more into also how to push myself and that sort of stuff. So he was actually able to just help me to really strive for more. I was already striving for a lot, but he was nah, more. In those American movie where you think oh, the guy is going in the right direction, and then there's the other guy that comes in and he's just you don't know, man, you don't know, you could aim for that and blah blah blah, whatever. So technically that's what happened. And now after that,
so Cedric was your Yoda. Is that what's happening right now?
Yes, exactly.
Okay,
yeah, exactly.
Okay. Trying to
always
find
telling me, do not try.
That's right.
Whatever.
Speaks backwards all the time. He's short and green. Okay.
He's living in a swamp and stuff. Yeah.
Got it.
And basically, when THQ was about to close, like it so happened that I was given a job at BioWare, so that's where I went after, and like I met a lot of great people there, and it was really, really fun. But Cedric was like hell bent on like working with me again, which I really appreciated because we stayed friends, and it was really great to work together. But it's just that the studio was like closing, so whatever. But at some point, like he just like convinced me to go work with him again. So I actually went to ADOS where he was working. And this is where we basically like started to work again together. And this is where we never stopped working together, because at ADOS, this is basically where the idea of like starting a company started. It was like basically a few things happen, and like games, they get canceled. You never really like know what's going to happen, and you're not in control either, so you always do your best, but hey, whatever. Sometimes the big guys up there, they decide something different. The numbers don't speak for the same passion that you have for the project. And it happened like maybe a little bit too much for my taste, that like some project got canceled, and Cedric also. So we basically figured out that outsourcing was something that was actually starting to become like a thing, because before you were hiring artists in your company to do the work, but the reality is that like there was so many artists all over the world becoming better at doing 3D that were available to work, and just like fucking hungry to work. And me and Cedric, we already had like a really good like working relationship, but also like an understanding on like how to help people. Like we both were teachers on the sideline, and we were both freelancers. So technically we had like all the understanding of like how to build teams to just like work with us to create like to create something. Plus Cedric being already team lead a couple of times, and also like an acting or a full art director on like another project, like add an understanding of like how to understand somebody's vision and to apply it. So like as like what you need to have an outsourcing company is basically like a few of the things that I just mentioned. Like you need to be somewhat of an art director, because you need to understand like an art direction and to be able to like teach it to like to the people. You need to be able to teach the method, also that sort of stuff, to like other people. You need to have like also some like project management skills that like basically it comes with the job of being the lead on a team. So Cedric already being like good at those things, he was basically like, it was clear in his head that like we could have an outsourcing company easily. The only thing that like we needed was to actually have like an opportunity to do it. Me and Cedric, we've been working in freelance for like a long time. The way that I work is I love to work on a project, but like I am so ADD that like sometimes I need to like work on something else. I mean, just look at my ArtStation page; it's all over the map. It's like robot there, monster there. This like there, like sometimes it almost feels like I have like no like style. No, I have a style, but like I mean like I don't have like a I don't know how to call it. Like
you have multiple style.
Yeah, I have multiple style. I mean, like I'm sure people can recognize that, like my method and like my way of like doing something. But I'm just like always like trying to go as far as I can from like one end to the spectrum every time with what I'm doing. It's just like my nature. I love to be like this. I'm the same with like video games. I'm the same with movies. I'm the same with alcohols or whatever. Like I'm gonna drink like the darkest imperial stout beer, but also I like cocktails. So like
you are quite all over the map, my friend.
I'm quite all over the map. Like that's just who I am. I love it.
You must be brutal in Trivial Pursuit. totally brutal. You know enough about a lot of things about like just everything.
Okay, okay, maybe not Reverse Suit, but like I started to watch Jeopardy with my wife like recently.
Yeah, there you go.
And
See,
like at some point, my wife was like, "How do you know that? How do you know that?" And I was like, "I don't know. I kind of like heard that somewhere from my friend that likes philosophy." So like, and I'm like not a philosopher at all, right? But like I just like I'm all over the map. That's what it is. And
I got a question. Go ahead, David. I was just can I just jump in really quick? I just wanted to ask specifically because like the way you described the sort of the birth of Keos Masons is kind of through almost opportunity, but like what like because you guys both had a job. You know, and you sounded like that job was satisfying you creatively because you were able to sink some energy into it, right? But what was the main motivator? Was it just because you felt like were you pioneers? You just wanted to go out on your own? Is you had a vision of being able to do the kind of work that you specifically want to do because some of the work that you do on companies you like it but you don't love it? Like what in your mind was the real true because I assume that you both shared a similar motivation, otherwise you probably wouldn't jump at the same time. So can you speak to that a little bit? Like what was going on in the back of your mind that made you think, I think it's something we have to do? Like, what was that?
Well, I mean, I think it came from the fact that we were already working in freelance, and people were always asking us like to do this and do that. And at some point, we started to just like say no because we just couldn't do it. But at the same time, we were also teaching people how to do 3D. So at some point, we were like, okay, well, I just made a clone right there that's like maybe still in school or just finished school, but like if I cannot do it, I'm pretty sure he can, like with my supervision. So it basically like started like this. So it was like we kind of like understood that like there was a dynamic that could exist where like we were supervising people to actually just replicate like what we're able to do. And so this is like where it started. Like basically the first people that started to work with us were people that were from this school actually. And like from this day we still hire from this school. Like the director is our friend, and like all the best that are coming out of this school, like we try to give them an opportunity. And plus like since we meet them in person, it's kind of like easier to like see if like it's going to work between us and that sort of stuff. So this is kind of like an opportunity that like existed just because the pieces were in place, or like we saw the pieces there, right?
Okay.
So it was on, like I said, it was on one part we were given too many work that we were just saying no, and on another part we were creating like replicas of ourselves that were just
building
like,
an army.
It's like, well,
with no
why don't
fight.
Yeah, exactly. Why don't we just like join into like a team synergy, and we just like handle like big batches of work? And like some companies, they were ready to give us like this chance, and it all started from there. And it actually it's like essentially it's not really like that different from this day forward. It's just that like now our name is known. We've proven ourselves. We continue to prove ourselves. And we keep always the bar at the same place, or we raise it. Like that's where it goes.
How much have you grown? Like how from the first days of Keos Masons to like what you are now? Like what kind of growth have you guys seen?
Well, I mean, just to give you an example of like maybe how many people are working with us at the same time. Like this, we started with zero, and me and Cedric,
you
right?
And Cedric, exactly.
Yeah, so it went up to like I think like maybe like 3 or 4 people like in the first like year, and like now like I'd say like probably like last year. Or like this year, we've hit like easily like 50 to 60 artists working for us. Awesome. Like when I say working for us is like on a somewhat permanent
regular basis.
Exactly. Like some of them are like, look, there's people that are been with us since the beginning of Keos Masons. Like cool. Day one, the first artists that worked for us, some of them are still with us. That's fun. What's fun about this is that well, first of all, I mean, they kind of like became friends at some point, because like just like when we go like where they live, we hang out and that sort of stuff. But at the same time, I mean, like the ones that shown the most passion for what they were doing, instantly they actually got to become like leads of their own team, or like benchmarkers of quality and that sort of stuff. And like we give them like the opportunities that corresponds to their skills and that sort of stuff. And it's really great to be able to also have like people inside of this company that are actually growing themselves. Look, there's like now this is not about like those people that were there from the beginning, but like there are people that started with us and they were like kind of like doing the job, but they had like a good attitude, so we wanted to keep them, even if like it was like more work to like help them to get them there. And like some of those people, like now they do incredible things. They do things that I'm like, I am so proud of you. I'm so proud to see you grow like this. And this is also one of the reasons why we really try to keep the people working with us. Like there's a part of like a feeling of like responsibility to give them work, since like we kind of like started this relationship, but also there's some of them it's just like I really feel that like they grew with us, and I want to continue like this adventure. So it's pretty cool.
Part of the family.
And yeah, exactly. And even if we're like we're a freelancing company, like at the end of the day, it's all artists working from home and that sort of stuff. But like we're able to create some really great synergy and like a feeling of like of belonging together. And I really love that. I never expected that from this, and I think that now we have it, so it's great.
That's awesome.
So, Marco, between this vision of, hey, let's just clone ourselves and take more contract, and the reality of actually doing it at scale, what was some of the biggest challenge that you might not have seen coming of, especially the first few years when you have to put everything together, when you have to do everything that a company needs?
Well, I mean, there's one of the hardest thing is to be able to really be like understand how to teach like your vision and teach the skills, and this is something that like fortunately we learned by being like teachers of what we do. But there is really something to say about like how much you can learn yourself when you actually are teaching something, because it requires you to really adopt a new perspective on your work. Like you really have to kind of like refragment all the like weird pieces in your head that work together, but you have to put them in a way that they're all like one next to each other, so that you can actually like read it like if it's a story. Because like in my head, it's like total chaos. I mean, it's like visions of hell and stuff.
So that's where the name is coming from.
Yeah, exactly.
All making sense now.
That's pretty much what it is. Like it's just like the chaos of creativity. But when you have to teach to somebody, like that chaos needs to be needs to be in place,
organized,
like, ordered. Yeah, that sort of stuff. Lawful, whatever, if you want to use Dungeon and Dragon terms. But basically, like that was like one of the biggest challenges, to actually like learn how to teach, and at the same time learn your own like brain, how it works and how to make it easily digestible. And I think that that's something that like not a lot of like people like are like able to that grasp it easily. And I don't want to like shit on anyone, but like I've had some people that were like in a position to have to teach me that I feel that like they were not able to provide this to me. Now, I'm not saying that they were bad. Maybe it just didn't work with like my sensibilities, and I'm not here to point finger at all. But like when you have to teach someone, you kind of like have to make yourself also like flexible and try to understand like what they might not understand, try to explain in like many ways, and try to simplify and synthesize like in the easiest way for somebody to understand. And then you let them do their part also, for sure. But that was that was really, really hard. And with that, all that, like there was like so much time that we needed to spend into like supervising people, and at the same time understanding like how to make sure our clients are satisfied with like this dynamic, because you always want to make sure your clients are happy. And it's like primordial. Like number one, you have to make sure like the client is like, okay, well that's cool, and I want to work with you again. And at the same time, you have to make sure that like your artist was like, okay, that's cool, and I want to work with you again. So it's kind of like a weird like juggling balanced act. But the thing that's actually great is that it's not like one or the other. There's really a way to have like your cake and eat it at the same time. And I find that the way that made us like succeed the most is just to be really human with both parties. Like we've never really done really well with like companies that like were basically just looking for a machine. that like had like no humanity to it, and we've been doing the best with like teams that like we were able to like talk together under like for us understanding their needs, understanding what's really the priority, what's really important for them, what's really going to alleviate their like their fears and that sort of stuff. And the same with like artists, like having artists that were just like super passionate, like hungry to know more and that sort of stuff. Like it just like made for the best like way to have all those people want to orbit like around you, and then like you just create art this way, and it's just great.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's the same thing with your peers, with people on your team, with your supervisor, with the producer, with client or employees. That's a question we often have. You know, how do you deal with your peers? How do you deal with a client? This and that. At the end of the day, it's two human beings that are interacting with one another. Are you able to properly communicate? Transparent and truthful in your communication? Are you able to trust? How it's at the end of the day, once all the technicalities and all that is put together, are you able to create a proper connection? And there are some people that might be two great individuals, but for some reason there is no chemistry, there is no good relationship. It's no one's fault. It's just that it's not a good match. And that's the same thing whether you're in a studio or if you have clients. And actually, when you're running a business, you're right. You have both sides. You need to create those bonds with everyone that is working with you, and you do need to do the same thing with the clients. And the best case scenario is, as you said, everyone is happy at the end of a project, and they enjoy the experience, no matter what side that they are.
Really, and I think it's so important actually to be able to humanize like everybody in the situation, because if it's like not happening on one direction or the other, it just can get like so hard. And I mean, like I said, I've worked for some companies that they were like just like there was no way of like being like human. It was really just like it needs to work this way, that way, and whatever. And it was just like sometimes really hard to just be able to coexist, and to show like they were not seeing us, we were not seeing them. I'm talking metaphorically, and it was just like making like things much harder. But I would say that like luckily, like most companies we work with, like it's kind of like easy to connect with people, at least if you do the steps, and people will follow. That's actually really interesting. And it's not even a question of like big company or small company, because like I've worked with some like huge well, I mean, we have like a ton of like the AAA studios, like we're already there. But like what's interesting is that like it's not like a symptom of like big companies or whatever. It's really a symptom. It's really a symptom of like not their spirit, but like how
culture.
Their culture. There you go. Exactly. Like their internal culture, because you have like, I'm not going to out anyone, but you have like some big companies that it just looks like a crazy house in there. And you're like, oh, okay. You're like, it's not like a well-oiled machine. It's like chaos. And within that chaos, like are created great things.
The bad kind of chaos, not the good kind of chaos. Like
exactly. Not the chaos KEOS.
That's the thing. It can be impressive, but when you have big clients, and I'm taking a random example, you're not working with Warner Brothers. You're working with Peter, the art director, on that specific project that is working under the umbrella of. So small studio, big studio, you're still working with either an individual or a team that have been hired by this big studio, and that's the connection that you need to create.
Absolutely, because even with like one company, sometimes we were just like working on another project, and it was like light and day. It's like, what? Like I thought like that it would be like somewhat of the same, and there's like maybe like 20% that like is the same because of some bureaucracy maybe thing or whatever, but the rest is all about like the human nature of like working with the person in the team and that sort of stuff.
How do you actually see Keos Mason evolve in the next few years? Is there a vision to kind of continue and just expand by doing the same thing, or kind of grow a little bit in the scope of the different kind of project or things that you might be doing?
Well, I like that question, because like it feels like we're kind of like starting to branch. Like this year is like the year that like I really see some progress into branching and other things. And like when we started the company, we wanted to be really, really creative, and we were kind of like not able to be fully that, because we kind of like needed to just like have like a kind of like a core that's kind of like feeding itself, that's working, that's consistent. And we found that core with like outsourcing. So this means working for other people, and all that is good and fine, and it's great. But like we always wanted to have like also like a creative like facet to Keos Masons, and we've always fed this beast by working on like personal projects, or like when we could work on some creative like smaller projects. But like, I mean, for people that follow us, like you'll see like me or Cedric, we're always posting like personal work stuff we work on that are really coming from our guts. And like we just love to do that. It's kind of like our lifeline. It's this kind of stuff that just like keeps us really like alive. But at the end of the day, it's not kind of stuff that really like makes money, right? It indirectly makes money in the sense that like exposition and working on what you like will always make you somebody that's kind of like memorable, or like noticeable. So like there's a certain exposition that we keep just so that like we're always in the scope of like people that might give us a chance to work on a project, either it be a creative project or another outsourcing project. But it feels that like soon we'll be able to touch base on like other forms of like of projects, and maybe something I still can't really like talk about, but like I'm in the midst of making my own line of collectibles, of characters. I mean, the same way that
Awesome.
I did a few of the characters behind me. Some of them are mine, some of them are not mine, but like whatever, like you get the idea. Those kind of like collectible things. Like I always love them because, like I said in the beginning of the podcast, I always loved like Power Ranger or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle action figures and stuff. So like it translated in my later years as like collectibles, statues like this. And I've always wanted to actually like create my own IPs, my own like designs and stuff, and having them like printed. And I kind of like did it. Like, I mean, the wasp right here is like it's getting old, but it's like one of like the first robot that I did, and I found this company that was able to print it. But like I'm striving to actually have like them like printed and painted, and actually them looking really professional. And I actually am working on having them done right now. I posted them recently to see if like people would be interested in like buying them, and I got an incredibly good reaction from them. And I was like, all right, I think it's now I seriously have to figure out how to make it work now, because it would be great. So this is a great creative outlet that I'm actually really hoping that is going to lead somewhere. And I mean, more can lead from this. Like the moment that I have this like creative thing that I was able to produce, I think like others will come afterwards. Just by the nature of things, the moment that you put yourself out there, like opportunities come to you. But if you don't buy your lottery ticket, well, nothing's going to happen. And I'm really happy to be able to expand in like another like facet, and I'm really like hoping that like I'm going to be able to do more of that. But at the same time, you know, Cedric is working on his own things, and we were even like talking about like creating our own game, and there's so many things we want to do, and it just feels that like now that the company is really well established, and that we know that like we're always going upwards, it feels that like now we have like maybe enough like momentum to talk about like new things. Nothing that I can really talk about, but still.
It's interesting because you mentioned I have to figure out this one, and I think that's one of the interesting part when you're an entrepreneur. You figure out how to learn CG and become good at it. You figure out how to, not that you got bored of it, but eventually like, okay, I need to figure out how not just to do freelancing, but build this little studio that's going to do freelancing at scale. Well, now you have clients and it's going well, and it's almost like, okay, now I need to figure out how to be more creative. And so it's always those challenge one after the other that's kind of keeping the momentum. And for me, that's a good segue to very briefly discuss, because you kind of dip your toe a little bit into the NFT craziness that
the future
was exactly the craziness that was a couple of weeks or months ago. How did that went for you? Or what was the motivation in the first place? How was the process of creating it? And do you see a future for you guys there, or is it still too vague to know?
Well, it's an interesting subject, but it's one that I'm going to say that, like, right off the bat, it disconnects from Keos Masons. So now I'm just going to talk about Marco Plouffe and his stuff, because I mean, there could be like a way to actually like have it integrated to like Keos Masons, but we feel that like it's something that we approach more in a personal matter, to be honest, like without really bringing the company in there. I'd say that like when I was introduced to NFTs, it was just because like everybody started to do it, as simple as that. And like when people all like when a group of people, like a major group of people, do something, normally what I do is I'm just like, fuck it, I'm not doing it. I was like this as a child. Like everybody was listening to that band, well, I'm gonna listen to underground music just because I want to be like rebel and different, and like wear camo pants and be a metalhead just because like I'm anarchist or whatever, without really being one. But like in my spirit was always that like what was popular was not really good for me. And I actually had this like reflex at first with NFT. So when I saw everybody doing it, I was like, well, I think I don't want to do it. I just don't want to do it because everybody's doing it.
It's a fad, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I kind of felt like this, and at some point after, like somebody else gave me like another perspective. Furio Tedeschi, for like other modelers, you might know that name. He's a great guy, great designer, character modeler, and like he actually introduced me to like a perspective that I really enjoyed. The idea that like somebody could create art and like earn a living through creating something that he does for himself, right? So like if people love what I do, that people would actually buy my art, and that I could actually like have somewhat of like a living based on like really me doing what I want, and people liking it to a point of like buying it. I was like, wow, this is kind of like the dream when you think about it. For sure. And I've kind of like tried, and I dipped my toe in the waters, hoping that like this like could like exist in that form, because I just love the idea. And I'm really happy of what I discovered about myself, in terms of like, because it made me kind of like try to do something a little bit outside of like what I usually do. It made me try to think of like a good idea, because I didn't just want to post like a picture of my character there. It's not bad to do that. It's just I'm saying I was like trying to just like whatever, elevate myself a little bit more. And I thought of like, what's the thing that I always wanted to do artistically that I never tried? It was to mix music and visual arts. Because like I said, I've been a musician for a long time, right? And I was like, oh, that would be cool to kind of like have like a picture of my character with like some basic animation with music. It would be kind of like cool. So I went to go see one of my childhood friends that's just a crazy musician, and I told him like, hey, can you do me like a looping track that looks like this music? And I sent him like an MP3 of like some like EDM song that I thought could be cool with a loop. So I kind of like animated like a light setting with like a character that I have already done, and I've put it all together. And by the end of it, I was like, man, I fucking love it. I really, really, really liked it. And I was like, okay, you know what? I think I can put a price on this, just because my appreciation of my own thing. And I thought that it was kind of like new. I was like, okay, cool. I kind of like did something new. So I will be able to put that in NFT with no bullshit, saying like, this is something that really like represents like my feeling for art in a world where you have to sell yourself and stuff. So I've actually like put it out there, and like fucking like nothing. And I kind of like knew already, like, well, I mean, somebody bought it. Michael Pedro actually like bought it. And it's kind of nice. I really, really appreciate it. Also, like Furio was really encouraging me like with that, and I really, really appreciated it, because like when you put your like a lot of like your guts into like your art, and it's just like not received at all, you're kind of like, the fuck's happening? Like did I miss the mark? Did I do I suck now or whatever? Now you can get into your own head, and that's like a whole other subject. Plus I have like so many artistic trauma. Like I am like all smile and stuff, but man, sometimes like I can get like really like sad about like art and stuff. That's, like I said, another subject. but all to say that,
sorry,
like,
Marco, I have to ask, do you have the imposter syndrome? Because that's something that we...
I invented imposter syndrome.
That's not what your shirt says. Your shirt says definitely an implicit no. So I'm getting mixed messages.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's no hate.
There it is.
It's a good message in the end.
I like it.
But the like the whole NFT thing really didn't work. And what I understood from it was basically that it was not really like a market for art. It was more like a market for like personality and that sort of stuff. And there was a lot of like time to put into it, into like your branding and like communication and this. And so it's more like a marketing thing in the end, I find. And I was not really like interested in like the dance that I needed to do to get there. And like some artists like did it and they were really successful at it, and like good for them, right? Because I mean, they were able to understand what they needed to do to succeed at this, and they were okay doing it, and they did it. And so I mean, it's great. I have no problem with that, but it's not really something that like really represents me. Like I said, I'm all over the map. It's super chaotic in my head when I do my art and stuff, and if I try to do like too much things for like the public, or if I have to kind of like change my nature, it kind of like hurts me inside. So unfortunately, like I'm not the guy that's gonna make like millions with NFT. Like I just really like the idea that like people would buy my art if they like it in that manner, in that access, I should say. That like I really have high hopes that it's gonna get somewhere, just because of like the utopia of like this idea, right? But now then you bring something else, it's like, well, it's just like one more thing that's like killing the environment and that sort of stuff. And it's like, okay, well, I can't do it too much because I don't want to participate in like destroying the planet more than it's getting destroyed now. Like same way that I'm like trying to buy stuff that I can recycle, or like I do compost and that sort of stuff. It's like I don't stop myself from buying things that like are like not good for the planet, but I'm just trying to balance between like, and just try to be reasonable. And since it didn't really bring me much, I don't really see myself doing more NFTs until they kind of like fix the whole like eco thing. At this point, I think I would probably go back and do it more, because I mean, it doesn't really cost me much. It makes me explore things and make me try things. I like it, and if somebody buys it, it's great.
Yeah,
and that's what it is.
I think the interesting thing with NFT is that, you know, internet in general gave access, you know, ultimate access to everything. And now with NFT, there's a way to actually create a rarity and something that is unique. So that's, but, you know, it exploded very rapidly. It deflated as rapidly as it exploded. But I think it's over time that we'll see that, oh, okay, that's a proper use of this technology.
Yes.
And, you know, especially with what you mentioned is very important. And there's, you know, especially with Ethereum, there's big upgrades that are coming that are going to reduce by like 98% the amount of energy consumption, because right now it's just ridiculous. I don't know if it's a proper number, but I heard that right now up to 5% of energy consumption in some countries were just for crypto mining, which is just
really
insane. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, that's really not good. Yeah, I'm not the most informed person, so like that's the first time I hear that number. It's like, yeah, that's
those machines, like those graphics cards, they run hot too. Like they're not doing small calculations. They are like anybody who's ever done any kind of mining before, they know that those things are being beaten to death. Quite literally.
Exactly.
It's funny that your reaction to the NFT was a similar journey, and I didn't even go out there and do anything, but I felt like I wanted to, and but the more I learned about it, the more I realized, well, you know, like there's actually all kinds of weird logic holes too in it. Like I started like here, my biggest issue with NFTs is that they I assumed that if an artist would put out an NFT and people buy the NFT, that they then own that art. But that's not how it works, apparently.
No.
And to me, that sort of it made it feel less meaningful. Like, it's like, well, if you're not buying it and don't have the rights to reproduce it, then it's sort of like it's not the same as actually owning a piece of art. It's like, for me, it was like, okay, like you can own the Mona Lisa. You know what I mean? Like, that's something you could own and collect if you're a collector and you wanted to collect culture like this, and that's something that you could be done, and you have then the right to then rent it out to museums if you wanted to. Like, it seemed like a financial, so it made sense logically. But as soon as I heard this, I was like, what? And like, you can be an artist and then put out a series, which would be like a limited edition prints, right? But again, the problem with that is, what if an artist goes and does that, but then they do another series at some point? We all know that, like, I mean, since I collected comics and cards for way back in the day, we all know that, like, a lot of what makes something valuable is its rarity, the scarcity of it. And so, like, if it's a limited edition, it's great until that limited edition then is no longer limited because the artist decides to break that and just makes a bunch of other, like, what's the rules? Like, who stops anyone from doing any of these things? This just seems broken.
I think that, like, things are like self-policing, because, like, when you look at like the real collectibles like this here, like, there's an importance in, like, how many copies they will make, because like it brings like rarity to it. But like, the moment that, like, this company does a Batman and they do like only 300 copies, and you're like, ooh, I want to be one of the 300 to have the only one of those. It brings a lot of rarity. But like, absolutely, like the company is going to do, like, at some point, another Batman that's like premium edition, and it's another one. But it's like, people understand that, like, the other collection still has value because of, like, when in time it was done and that sort of stuff. And so I feel that, like, it's just gonna be like a more of like the same dance that happens when, like, NFT finds its footing. It's just like, it did not, and it did not help also that it was, like, chastised because of, like, the eco thing, or like Elon Musk or blah 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 blah. But I think, like, everything, it's gonna find its place at some point. And I'm just like hopeful that, like, where it's gonna land is, like, somewhere close to, like, the idea that I had, because the idea that I have is just,
I totally am with you. That's what got me excited too. Just this idea that just an average artist that doesn't have to work for a company can just produce the things that they like producing and make a living off of that. What for me was, I was in. Like, I'm like, that is awesome. Like, the promise of what it could be is amazing, but as in its current state, it doesn't quite live up to all those promises. I'm with you. I totally agree. I think who knows? I'm hopeful, like you are, that maybe it will figure itself out, but I think they need to do some work. The irony to it is, because they're using kind of cryptocurrency, one of the biggest selling points is that it can't be controlled or manipulated. The problem is that it can't be controlled, and therefore there is that part that's missing in NFTs, right? Like, who's policing this? You're saying it's self-policed, but like, does that really fill you with any real sense of security if you're going to start spending like hundreds of thousands of dollars on some of these purchases that could literally just evaporate because no one is really actually policing it? I don't know. It's just, for me, it's got too many like big holes in it that makes me nervous that it's not going to be more than just a fad unless they solve those things.
You're right, but I think at the end of the day, like, if the thing stops to exist, it's never going to evolve into something that is like more like maybe like secure, if you want to use the word, or that sort of stuff. It's the same. I mean, like, you put your trust in like paper money, that it represents something to buy like whatever. At the same time, it's the same. It's just, it's new, and I kind of like, I just, to be honest, like, I'm not even into crypto. I'm not a gambler. I believe in the thing. It's just like, I'm kind of like, I'm in my own world doing 3D characters, so like,
you
I'm
also
not
have
really
your own
like
thing going on. You are trying to run a company, so like,
exactly. I already have like enough. I'm good. But like, I really do appreciate it, and one of the reasons why I appreciate it, it's because it gives it gives like a big middle finger to just like the current currency. And I kind of like that there's like something new in there, and I don't know, like, I like to see the world burn a little bit. Just like a little sizzle.
That's coming from your early anarchic.
Exactly.
Anarchy love.
Burning a little bit is actually that, if you look it up in the dictionaries, that's what KEOS actually stands for. It's burning a little bit. Burning a lot is CHOAS, and that is a completely different thing. Just to set the record straight. Burn a little bit.
I like it.
So, Brent, as usual, we're always running late for a question from chat. So we're going to leave chat a few seconds. I don't know. I didn't even see if there was.
There's a couple questions up here. Let me just go. But now's a good time. If you're in chat and you wanted to poke this wonderful man's brain about whatever, then now's a good time to do it. Let's see.
So actually, as you're looking for one, I'm going to ask one. Marco, you have 1 minute to answer this one.
Right.
You guys are doing mainly high quality CG characters for video game. This is pretty niche. Why specifically for a video game?
Just because we were really good at it. All our methods were like really like efficient to do it in video game, and it just like grew like exponentially by itself, where like the other parts like didn't grow as much. So it's just by default, I would say.
And let's face it, game characters are pretty cool.
Well, I really love. I'm a gamer at heart. I mean, not even Cedric. Cedric doesn't have this excuse, but like I am really like a gamer at heart more than like a movie viewer or that sort of stuff. So I will always love to be able to have a character and have like a scene where you can turn around your character and really look at it the same way that like you could have like a collectible thing or your action figure that you can look at. So I've always been like very appreciative of like those things, and I found it more in video games than the other. So yeah.
Awesome.
And afterwards in collectibles.
I've got a question here. This question was posted really early when you were mentioning mentors, because you kind of, I think later in the conversation talked about two of your mentors. At least, well, obviously, interestingly, your business partner started as kind of a mentor because he had a bit more experience than you. It's interesting that you also mentioned David, the supervisor, who's also quite prolific. I remember I worked with him at Ubisoft back in the day. I'm assuming it's the same David, big ZBrush guy, right? Yeah. So so he's got lots of experience as well. You must have been surrounded by a bunch of like titans in that particular market. At THQ.
And I think what's important is that like you kind of like have to try to surround yourself this way, and even like remotely, like you have to put yourself out there and kind of like reach out to people, and it's not every relationship is going to work, but I think that like you have to make the effort of like being seen and to talk to people. Like I was saying earlier that I didn't want to do like that dance with NFT, like about like marketing myself and going to reach out or whatever, but like it's because it feels that it's like harder than like doing it just like meeting people on the internet, like on ArtStation, talking, going to like events, or just putting your name out there and people will start talking to you. And like I mentored people just by meeting them. They were like randos sending me an email, but like I just like some of my friends now, and I just appreciated it. But like it's just like life is going to give you mentors, and you just have to
it's interesting because you're answering that question based on the fact that like you now are also mentoring people, and that you're kind of speaking from experience how you've discovered people to mentor, which is because they put themselves out there. So basically the rule is put yourself out there, because like-minded people might see potential in you and might be like, hey, I feel like I can really kind of take them under my wing and show them some things. And I guess now you're just paying that forward and doing the same with other people around you. That's cool. Right. I got a question for you that's not it wasn't in chat. It's my own question. What is, so in today's world, what is it, what's in your toolkit? Like, what do you like? ZBrush seems to be obviously one of the main things that you probably use, but are there a bunch of peripheral tools that are your sort of in your preferred toolkit, or is it like all ZBrush all day, all the time?
It's like I'm ZBrush boy here. Like I pretty much just use ZBrush, and even for rendering, I've learned how to just render in ZBrush. But like I also daffle with like Keyshot, because sometimes I like to just try like other moods and stuff. But like I really like to be like the guy with one tool in this pocket and be like, I can do everything with this one.
Nice.
I just like it. So I'll say like it's like 95% like ZBrush. I just love to just the convenience of it, basically.
It does all the things you need to do.
Yeah, I've mastered the beast, even if like it comes with like some problems sometimes. But
oh man, I have a hard time getting my head around that software. It's the interfaces seem intuitive enough for me. I got another question here. So when designing / modeling a character, do you think about how this character will animate and whether the design will function? And whether the design will actually function while in motion? How far ahead do you think about these things?
So both. If I work for myself, I don't ask myself this question, because I just like to relax, and I just do this like little quick like functionality check on the characters. But like often I'm like, this is impossible, but I'm keeping it because I like how it looks, and I do that sort of stuff. But when you're working like for something that's going to be animated, you kind of like have to kind of like work with the animators to make sure it's going to work. And there's like ways to do it that works super well. Like for example, make a blocking. Make sure your blocking is somewhat like has like a finished look seen from far, and you send that blocking to an animator that's gonna or you like decimate it first. You just make it like digestible for like a software to be rigged and animated, and you do like an animation check right after the animated tells you like red flag here, fix that, that's good. Go back on your blocking. You fix it, send it to animator. He's gonna like do like a check, like we should be good with that, and then poof, you have a character that like should be animated correctly. So it's not really not hard to make it like functional.
Can I just say that I really wish that all character modelers felt that way?
It's also
you know what?
Everybody was waiting for me to say that.
Obviously, not everyone is doing it.
Yeah.
No.
Well, like funnily, I mean, I learned this technique by working with you, Dave, and it felt like we were like the first one to do it. Maybe some other people at the same time were starting to work this way, but I saw it appearing after this time, and now it's just like a constant. I think 70% of like my clients, they actually like ask us to do like this check first, and it really saves for a lot of trouble.
What a crazy concept, right? I think I saw too many characters that been worked on for months, and then it gets to animation like, let's talk about this, and then like, well, no more time, no more budget, and like.
Exactly. So it's going to deform weird. It's so simple. It's you make a block in, you send it for approval, and it fixes like 80-90% of the problems right off the bat.
The key area of a body that usually suffers from this is the shoulders. The shoulders and neck areas. It's like people love to put all these crazy things up there, and it's like that person's like never. Dead. So you have to animate. The character has to like.
Like in Batman Forever, like Michael Keaton cannot turn his head because like they haven't checked if like he could turn his neck because it was all like molded and stuff.
The fight choreography was funny too. He would be blocking people like
exactly.
It was like such a rigid rubber like suit. Oh, that's so funny.
And it's great when you've been told, oh well, that's just a fun challenge for animation. Like, no, it's not a challenge. You're just trying to find a reason for anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Here comes another one. I was going to ask this question myself, but someone stole my thunder. Friendly Slav. Is Marco going to do courses or demos like the one he did on Pixelogical in the future? In other words, will you teach everybody?
Okay,
show them the way.
So the quick answer is like I am like punching myself in the face for not doing more tutorials because like I love to teach, but I have paralysis when it comes to recording myself.
Sure.
I don't have paralysis when it comes to live. Like I think like I'm gonna do like Twitch channel live before actually recording stuff, and like even it would be like free at the end of the day if I do like Twitch, that kind of stuff. The thing is that I came to that realization like the moment that like my kid like was born. So now I'm like, okay, well, I don't have time to have a Twitch channel, but like I'm to be honest, I really have this on the back of my head, trying to figure a way to make it happen, because I see myself doing live and having fun and just like with no like goal or restriction or like absolutes. Like I can just work on something that's like a personal work and like people can see and talk. And I love this dynamic. But the idea of like having to record myself and like be perfect in all my strokes and because I'm so chaotic. Like once again, Keos Masons, it's chaotic in there. And like, to be honest, the way that I work is a lot of like 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 step forwards, 3 step back, 1, 4. And then like at some point I get to the end line, but like it's
in your head,
it's so chaotic.
In your head, you're kind of thinking that people don't want to see how the sausage is made, right? Like it's like, do they really want to see how ugly some of that workflow is? It's like, truth is, yes, actually they do. And that's the cool thing about Twitch is that is the perfect format for that. Like people are going to Twitch knowing that's what they're going to get, and you could kill 2 birds with 1 stone. You could just literally work on your own projects, which you're doing anyways, and people can watch you vicariously. Like they can just sit there and watch you, and it's like everyone gets something out of that. It's really interesting. If you, by the way, for open offer, because I dove deep into this realm a little while ago. If you want any kind of tips or advice or any even help on anything like that, just send me a message. I would be more than happy to usher you into that brave world, because I went through that grinder, and it's a little intimidating, and I totally, absolutely feel your pain with that sort of analysis paralysis, sort of like, do I and I just finally did it, and I'm glad I did, because it's a lot of fun. So let me know.
It is. I'm sure I would be good. And it's crazy because I realized like I said, I just realized that it's something that I would like, and the way that I realized it's because of the pandemic and not seeing people, I started to hang out on Discord with my friends a lot. Like my friends from my hometown also.
Sure.
And when I was like just like being with them, I was actually working on my computer, and at some point I was like, hey, I'm just going to share my screen for like the people that want to see me watch.
Exactly.
And they actually really appreciated it. And I was like, why am I just not doing that with people that actually wants to see me work?
Yeah,
because like it's fun. It's
fun. And I mean, you'd be amazed with the kind of people out there like on Twitch. Like one of the people that I've discovered recently that does this is Deadmau5. I don't know if you're familiar with his work, like the musician. He does it every once in a while. And what he's usually doing is he goes on there, and I don't know if he always does this, but the last time I saw him live was he was just fiddling around in the software that he uses. I can't remember what it's called for his live shows. So it was like a sort of a real-time graphical sort of suite that he was sort of that connects to music, and like so that it's driven by amplitude and frequency and all these other things to kind of create a really nice fusion. It'd be right up your alley, actually, because of the little the NFT you made, music and art together. And he just sits there just screwing around, and he just why not? He's going to do it anyways. He can give his fans like sort of that inside scoop, and maybe even learn a thing or two at the same time. It's perfect.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, so let me know. It would be absolutely awesome to even like we can even host you on Agora.Community, and we can give you funnel an audience to you, and people can discover you. It would be amazing. I mean, the people need to see you out there. Just got to do that. No pressure. I mean, not that I'm overdoing it with the pressure right now or not, but I open offer whether you want to go down that road or not. We got another question. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Absolutely. It'd be amazing to show you. So then there is another one here, which is, have you an idea what will the price range be for your future collectible? We already got a couple customers apparently in the audience. Cannot wait to have them on my shelf. Well, so I mean, obviously.
Since I'm going to be working with a partner on this, it's not like really my decision. Plus, they know much more in marketing than me. So like knowing like the scale of the collectibles with the price associated to it for like the market is something that is more like a knowledge that they have. I have somewhat of a knowledge for it for sure, but like we still need to finish like a couple of like conversations to be able to know like what to aim for the type of market and how to satisfy the most people at the same time. Because at the end of the day, if I could have them like one for one, like life size sold at like 5 million each, I would be like, let's go for it. I love it to have it life size. But like, of course, we're going to range between something like 1/4 to 1/10, probably somewhere in the middle, I guess. So like then like the price just has to be something that like is worth us like putting time into it, but at the same time making sure people are going to buy it. It's a really hard question, but the answer that I'm going to say that is really the most important is that for me, I'm doing that for like a passion, and I just need to make sure that like I'm not digging myself a hole like by like making this happen, because now it's just not a passion of making a character in 3D and putting it on the internet. Is that production costs like a ton of money, right? So you just have to make sure that like you can survive through like production. And I really just want to put my art out there. That's really like what I'm trying to do. So I'll try to have it as cheap as possible for sure.
So Marco, just for those that are not familiar with the world of collectible, let's say the collectibles that you bought yourself, from the most affordable to the most expensive, what is the range from those that you purchased yourself from other artists?
Well, I mean, like the you can have like collector pieces, like the little guy that's like here, the little skull guy right there. Is like I don't remember exactly the price, but like he's like high like this pretty much. It was like something around like $100 to $150, I think, not including shipping. And like it's kind of like, sure, it's a lot, but it's because it's painted, right? But it looks so good, and it's kind of like also like it's a particular piece that comes from like it's from an artist called Dominic Quick, by the way. I love his stuff, and it's just something that like is kind of like unique. So things that are like unique, they're going to cost more for sure. But I think there's such a great value in that, and I really like it. But if you look at like for example, like this guy here, the Batman Samurai. This is actually me. I modeled it for XM Studios, and like the price is like way up there, but it's big. It's huge. Like it's big easily. I cannot even put my hands in the camera to say how big it is.
Is it made out of resin?
Yeah, it's resin. It's pretty much all resin that I have back there. And like this ranges up to like, I mean, the price is out there, or I think they're all sold out. But like, I think it was like easily something around like between like $1,000 to $1,500, not shipping included, right?
Yeah.
But that's like a huge beast, right?
Yeah.
But like you have like other characters, like for example, like the Punisher here is another one that I made. That was for a sideshow, and this one I think is like $400 if I'm not mistaken.
You did one for sideshow.
Yeah.
I love the sideshow stuff. Whatever happened to sideshow? You probably know the answer to this question, but like, because I remember back in the day, I bought a bunch of the Lord of the Rings stuff, and it was sideshow Weta at one point, and then they rebranded, and Weta's been removed. Is it because they got like, is Weta no longer involved with them, or is it just rebrand? You know the story behind
I don't
this?
know.
Because
I don't know, but like if I had to guess, it was probably because like Weta felt confident to do it by themselves at some point, so they just like decided to do it by themselves. I think it's just like sometimes I see why like some people that would have like they're able to do the full production, they would want to have like final say on everything.
Sure.
So I would guess it's probably some like convenience like thing
because I just noticed that it changed at one point, and but the quality still seems to be there. So like they do some really great work. You should check out Sideshow Collectibles because there's some crazy stuff.
Great.
And they even sell like a life-sized Han Solo and Kryptonite you can actually buy with like LED lights and everything. And for like the uber nerd that wants to have that in their man cave, is kind of like a or girl cave. I shouldn't exclude women or women Star Wars fans out there. So either way, nerds unite, and they would love to have one of those things in there. Yeah, exactly.
So Brent, is it the moment that you're going to slightly turn your webcam and we're going to see it in the right corner of your office right there?
No comment. Moving. Let's just say my finger has hovered over that buy button a couple of times in the past, but I have not I haven't quite committed to that level of nerdery yet. So, but I would like to.
I got this with so many statues that like there's so many statues that I actually hovered my finger over by, and I was like, I can't do it. I can't do it. I don't have the money right now, but I really want it. And some I was like, okay, I got it. They're in the mail coming soon.
It's funny because we just dove into kind of a bit of a small statue making production ourselves. We kind of stumbled into it because we wanted to make a cool custom trophy for a winner of an Ultimate Anim Challenge, and it's still in production for those who are listening. It is actually on its way. I actually have it on me now, and I'm doing a couple little like extra pieces for it. I have to cut it out of acrylic, and then it's going to get painted. But man, there's a lot involved in, because it's one thing to make a model that animates. It's one thing to make some model that just looks good in an art book. And it's a whole other thing to make a model digitally that can then, because you need to understand the printing process well enough to understand how like, it's just, I know, I mean, I'm preaching to the choir, I know, but it is
it's so complicated.
And depending on what you're printing it on, you might have printed in pieces. So you have to have those pieces that are keyed so they can fit together. And it's like, it's a process. It's a whole other thing to learn on top of just being a good sculptor to begin with, you know.
But I'll tell you something that's fun is having a little 3D printer. Like here, the thing that's black right here is actually like a 3D Form 2 3D printer that I bought. Oh yeah.
I don't have a Form 2 because I'm not a millionaire, but I do have a any cubic. Although I would love to have a Form 2. Form 2 for those out there is like the Cadillac of resin printers, and they're very, 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 very high quality.
Yeah, the quality is pretty great. I made like a few statues. Like it's hard to see because it's in the background, but like this one here, I actually printed it from this printer, and it prints like 6 inches by 6 inches only. But I chopped it in like many pieces, and I assembled it. And I had a ton of fun. It looks really cool, and I'm super happy about it.
You could justify owning one of those because you actually happen to be in the industry of making beautiful models.
And I have to prototype things before like sending it. So
for sure you do. Otherwise, it's not going to work. You'll get the bad news after they're trying to do it on their end, and you have to like retool it all. Yeah. That's cool.
Business expense.
Yeah, baby. We're kind of out of time. It's 5:03 on wall 5:03 where we're from. So for those who didn't get to, I think we got most of the questions though. We'll do one last question if you don't mind. Do you have 5 more minutes? So we have another question here, which is, what's your favorite game franchise that you ever worked on? And I would say I would even add to that, and what in maybe versus what game franchise you enjoyed playing the most. just to spice it up a little bit.
Well, I mean, okay, so it's going to be really simple. All the favorite game that I love are not the one that I worked on, and it's not because like it's just because
it's not because you didn't try.
Yeah, exactly. No. Actually, I played all the games that I worked for, and to be honest, like I appreciated most of them. I really love Borderlands, so like I actually was really happy to see my work in Borderlands. But that even started before I was in Keos Masons. I was freelancer. At the point, and I worked on Borderlands 2, and I played the game afterwards, and I didn't even know the game. I just wanted to see my characters, and I was like, holy shit, this is really good, and I loved it. I love like gun porn games like this.
That's
they're pretty fun.
Game.
Plus, I mean, it's super funny, and I just love the energy and everything.
Yeah.
So that I really liked. But like you see, like my favorite games are stuff like Dark Souls and that sort of stuff. But like it's like I don't think I'm ever gonna work for From Software, not because I don't want, but just because it's like maybe a bit out of reach, or like I don't even know like how to actually like get there. Plus, I mean,
say never.
But I mean, at the same time, if they have like an internal like way of like Dark Souls are so like the spirit of Dark Souls is so like pure that I kind of like feel that it's not something that's like easily done with like
It's like you have to go through some sort of special ritual or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Some sort of hazing period, and like who knows what kind of like things you need to do before you get a chance to work on a game like that. I get your point. Like it's very
there's also like
tight-knit.
so many. Yeah, exactly. There's also like so many games that I love that I would not want to be a character artist on those games. Like just for example, there's a game that I love. It's called Stanley Parable. It's more like a mind fuck than a game, but I love it. But there's like zero character in that game.
Yeah, exactly. Not much for you to do in there. Yeah, that's true.
Exactly. So there's like a lot of that, but like I think from all the games that I worked on, probably like Borderlands was the one that I was like I had the most fun playing with. And to be honest, it's not necessarily the one that I had the most fun working on. I mean, they're a super great team, and like I love working for Gearbox. The people that I work with are super good, but it's like honestly, it's not super like my style. It's a style that I understand that I can actually work on, and I want to continue working with them for a long, long time because it's so fun. But like it's not the style that comes in first place when I actually work for myself.
It's pretty stylized too. It's got these very simple shapes. Like your stuff is very detailed. And it's not like that's not their shtick. You know,
no, it's not their MO at all. But there's something about shapes that for me is really important that I understand, and that's why I like to work with them because I see a little bit of that. But you'd think that like it's not the thing that I do like on my own free time. But yeah, I really liked it. It was really good.
Well, David, you got anything else? Can we cut this?
That was great.
Wonderful man.
Again, an hour and a half is passing by so fast. Thanks a lot, Marco, for coming to this little discussion, and I feel that it's not going to be the last time that we see you on our Twitch stream.
No, I love doing that. Seriously, it's a lot of fun. So I mean, if you invite me, I'll be there again.
I like it. That's good. And reach out to me if you want to talk about like nerding out about live streams, because I'd love to fill your ear about all that stuff because it'd be fun. And just because I think I'm guilty because I just want to see you do the stream so I can watch it. It's kind of twisted, but I feel like I'm trying to like convince you to do it just for my own sake, because I would love to see your workflow. I'd just love to watch you work because you're awesome. Your work is very good.
Yeah, and that would be good. And like I said, it's like I feel like a lot of people like they want things from me, and I would love to be able to provide it. It's just so hard to make time with like the family and my own stuff and the company. Get it. But I truly, I'm always like listening to what people are saying and like hoping to find a way to do it. So I'm really like hoping that maybe this like Twitch thing can be inserted into like my way of life, my lifestyle right now. That would be really great. So I appreciate for the people that have like patience towards like my things. Just know that like I it lives inside of me like really strongly, and I always try to just like. Well,
that's obvious. You wouldn't have come on the show unless I did, right? You wanted to kind of share the journey. Well, thank you both for being here. Thank you so much for taking a bit of time out of your busy day there, Marco, and thank you, David, as usual. And we'll see you on the next one, gentlemen.
Absolutely.
Until next time.
Hey guys, that was great.
Cheers, bye. So yet another conversation, and yet another time that I forget to turn the last question off. So thank you for showing up to this this show today. It's always fun to do these. Dave, you know that David and I love to do them. It's our guilty pleasure during the week because we have a busy week of lots of different things, and we know that there's at least going to be one moment where we just get to hang out with some creative individual that we love and we respect, that we can just kind of shoot the poop with. And that's exactly what you just saw happen today. We have another one coming up on the 30th of June, and it is with Mike Jungbluth. And and we have something before that actually on Sunday. There's something actually happening this Sunday that's it's worth talking about really quickly before I end the stream. It is it's a little bit like Meet the Expert, because we just did another one that was a little bit on the same theme, like Meet a Anim Challenge champion, where we got to talk to Dane Romley. We are also going to do every once in a while these little spotlights on the reviewers, because you can, obviously click on their bio, and you can take a look on our website and get to know more about the reviewers that we have, the experts. But it's one thing to read about them, and it's a whole other thing to kind of feel like you get kind of a bit of a conversation with them. So we're going to have one this Sunday, the 20th of June at 9:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And that is with Cameron Fielding. So tune in for that one, because that's going to be interesting. Cameron is a bit of a legend in his own right. He currently works for a company called Valve, which you may or may not have heard of before. But he's worked at a lot of different companies before that. And he's just an amazing animator. And he became quite famous when he put out his demo reel many years ago that had a bunch of stuff from an old game called Turok the Dinosaur Hunter. And he had these crazy shots of Turok just literally wrestling down these raptors. Honestly, you still watch it today, and it's still just as impressive. So he's gonna be on the show. We'll talk a little bit about him. He's one of our experts who you can order a review from. So please come out to that, because I think it'll be a lot of fun to get to know him a little bit better. Until next time, then, have a really good remainder of the day, and stay animated. Cheers.